Boruto episode 18, A Day in the Life of the Uzumaki Family. Now, of course, with the promo for this episode last week, I knew that this was going to be a filler episode, and it definitely was, but I still had some good times with it. I thought the whole episode, which I was really happy that it was only like the first half, but I thought the whole episode was going to be based off of the one-shot manga, which was Naruto's inauguration day. I thought that was going to be like the whole episode, but it actually ends up being a flashback within the episode because Himawari ends up sick in the episode and Boruto is taking care of her. And so he has a flashback back to when Naruto was supposed to be celebrating like his inauguration day, and we see the night before where he gets home drunk and stuff. And some of this stuff was new because I don't believe that was in the one-shot manga, and I don't believe like the very end of that story was there either, which I'll talk about. But you know, they have basically like all the guys hang out with Naruto and they get him super drunk. And so, you know, the kids wanted to stay up late, or at least Boruto did, to see his dad. And this was like, you know, this was during the time before, you know, Naruto and Boruto had like this distant relationship, because once Naruto became Hokage, that's where all the animosity came from for Boruto. So this is still like one of those moments where it was like, you know, he's still kind of uncool and stuff. He still was sort of that way, but it wasn't the same sort of distance that they actually have in the current time. So I thought it was kind of cool. We get to see like a little bit of extra stuff, and then we actually do get the day of. All of it was, you know, straight out of the manga. The old lady doing like all of the stitching for all the Hokages and stuff like that, and you know, Hinata going to pick it up and her ending up being the first person there, and Naruto and the kids are late because they're arguing, and Himawari wants to take her little pink bear, and Boruto's like, no, because all that's going to end up happening. He almost, it was kind of funny because he almost had like a dad's point of view where it's like, I don't want to do this stupid thing because everyone else is going to be like, I don't want to, so you have to do it now. That's kind of what Boruto was feeling. Like, as the big brother, you're going to get tired of carrying it, and then I'm going to have to do it, and that's going to be embarrassing for me. So they have this argument. They're just pulling the bear and arguing. Naruto's, you know, just trying to put his shoes on, and then it rips. And that's when, like, you know, chaos, you know, descends upon the household, and it was pretty awesome. Like, it was good in the manga, but I thought it was really well done in anime form. Like, you know, you get the music, you get the animation, you get the actual voice to it, and I loved it. I was like, this is actually way more entertaining than I expected. I knew what it was going to be, and it was almost just as fast. It was actually a little bit extra to it, but it was like, you know, everything I knew was coming because of the manga, but it was still really good. Like I said, the animation for it, like her crying, and then you see it where she's crying, and then she opens her eyes, and they're like white. It almost turns into like, you know, a horror movie or something. And Boruto like freaks out, like, oh crap, this is, you know, she has eyes like mom, and she's freaking out, and he's like, you know, he gets pushed into the wall because she like hits him back, I would assume with a gentle fist, and so then she's doing like the finger point to his chakra, like to his chakra points, and she's just like locked on like Terminator and stuff. It was just really crazy, and he's freaking out. And of course, you know, when Naruto's like, what the heck is going on up there, and he sees that Himawari has the Byakugan, it's like, oh crap, I have to get in front of this. And unfortunately, that's exactly what he does. He doesn't get in front of it and tries to counter it or anything like that. It's just like, oh crap, I have to save my son from my daughter, because if she hits him, he might die. Especially with the way it was all set up, because she would have hit him, you know, based on the way she was kind of pointing, it would have hit him pretty much like straight in the heart, you know. So I think Boruto actually would have been killed, but unfortunately, Naruto basically just gets hit directly in the center, and I love the animation for it, like during that slow motion sequence, and he's slowly like flying off the ground and stuff, and I was like, I really like the way they cut up the ante for the animation during just like that little segment. So it was definitely awesome. I was like, this is pretty cool. Everything else was normal. Hinata getting there and everyone being like, oh, well, you know, Naruto isn't here yet, what's happening? And eventually Konohamaru ends up taking his place. So I was like, alright, I appreciate that. And then the extra stuff that wasn't in the manga, because it basically ends right there, and then I think it goes to just Naruto. I want to say it just goes to Naruto like passed out on the floor or something like that in front of Boruto, and Hinata, you know, trying to wake him up. But it goes a little bit further than that in this episode, where they show what happens in between Hinata leaving the ceremony and then getting back to the house, and it's like, it's Boruto hiding in fear, and it, you know, once again it kind of cuts back to like that horror movie element, and you have the music, and he's freaking out, and he's hiding and like covering his mouth like a horror movie, and she's, you know, looking for her brother, and it was awesome. And like Himawari's just walking around, and you know, she opens the doors and stuff, and then she looks and she sees he's in the closet because she can see his chakra lines through the wall, and it was just really cool. I was like, I really like that. It was like just the smallest little bonus that wasn't, you know, part of the manga, and I was like, that's pretty cool. I like that sort of horror element for Boruto's character where he's just freaking out. And then of course, with him being in the closet, that's where it cuts back to Boruto in the present day, and he's like, man, I thought I was really going to die there. And then it actually goes to Naruto really showing up. And this is one of those things where Boruto always feels like, he's never going to really give a crap. Like, he didn't even take the time to come here with Himawari being sick. And I think this is something that they've only really touched on, like, the smallest little bit in the anime, but it's definitely there a lot more in the film. But, Boruto not worrying about himself and worrying a lot more about Himawari and Hinata, that's something that's almost a big part of why he doesn't really like Naruto. He's like, whatever, I don't really give a crap if we're distant, it doesn't mean anything to me, but I don't want you to make, Mom and Himawari sad, which he says, like, when they go out to eat ramen. And I was like, that's cool, because that's something they don't really touch on as a part of his character, which, considering we are eventually going to get to, like, the Boruto movie stuff, they can't have it too much, otherwise it'll just, be recycling. But that is a big part of his character, like, why he doesn't like his dad currently is, like, he hurts me, but really he hurts the people that I care about, which, affects Boruto a bit more. So, I like the element of that, and Naruto actually showing up, and you see how much he cares, where he's like, it's actually Naruto, it's not a shadow clone. He's like, I left Shikamaru with my shadow clone, and Boruto's like, your cloak is on backwards. He's like, oh man, I didn't, because he was rushing to make sure his daughter was okay, he didn't realize his cloak was inside out. And there's like little stuff like that, and Boruto is like, always so uncool, but he smiles because it's like, he does care, and it was actually him, it wasn't, a clone. So, it's pretty cool. It's like, alright, I like that. And then they end up arguing over the food. We get to see Hinata almost take the place of Naruto's mom a little bit, where she has like, the flaming red anger and stuff, and she kicks them both out. They both end up going to eat, and they have a fairly decent time. We get to see Ikarachi ramen, which I thought was pretty cool. Every time I see that, I'm like, man, every time I watch Naruto and they show ramen, it makes me want to eat ramen so bad. It always looks just amazing, even when it's stuff I don't want to eat. Like, they have like boiled eggs in there, and like, I hate boiled eggs, but every time I see ramen in this show, I'm like, man, I want to eat some ramen right now. But, they have a good time. And I love that they did this, but they have Naruto, when he's talking about like, oh, we'll just get, these two orders, and he's reaching his back pocket. What I thought was going to happen was he's going to be like, oh crap, I didn't bring my wallet with me, like any of my money, and it was going to be like, oh, no big deal, not only are you the 7th Hokage, but Naruto's been there since he was a kid, so it's like, whatever, like one free meal here or there. But then he pulled out like this dusty, torn up little thing that clearly went through a couple accidents. He's like, yeah, but I got this thing from your dad, like, this still holds up, like, all you can eat. And it's like, of course, it was a wedding gift from the original owner. I can't remember either of the people's names. I know they both have names because they had a full filler episode for them, like, in the original series, but I don't remember either of the characters' names. But the daughter is officially taken over, and now there's, like, a new guy who's the cook in the back. But Naruto, he pulls out, like, the little thing, like, all we can eat, it still holds up. So I thought that was pretty funny. But they have a decent moment. It's just Naruto and Boruto talking about them, like their relationship and the relationship with, as a family unit, like the Uzumaki, family. And I thought it was pretty cool. Like, I really liked what they did with it. It was very simple. And then you have Chocho and Choji come in, and that's where Boruto is like, it's crazy that they have these silly moments like this where they're having a crazy eating contest and stuff. And Boruto's like, he's kind of like in this weird in-between thing where it's like he had a fairly okay day with his father, where it's like, dad actually cared about coming to see Himawari. He's taking me out to eat and stuff. And he's talking to me because they have like the little movie poster stuff. And, he sees Chocho and Choji. It's like, man, why don't we have moments like that? And then he kind of freaks out like, oh, I'm supposed to be kind of like this tough kid, and I don't care about wanting to spend time with my dad. So he kind of messes with himself a little bit. But I actually like those elements of the episode. And of course, when they're leaving, they go through a little reference, because they talk about Chocho and Choji beating like the gluttonous queen or whatever. And it was like, who is that? And Naruto kind of pushes it off. For some reason in my head, like, it doesn't make sense now, but the first thing that came to my mind was that for some reason it was Naruto doing the sexy jutsu, and he was like the gluttonous queen for some reason. Like, I don't know, it was just weird. I was like, I feel like that's the only explanation here, but it ends up being Hinata, of course, and it kind of I can't say full circle because it wasn't like the beginning, but when they first get there, Naruto talks about the fact that that's like their first big date. It was Naruto and Hinata's first big date was there, and they went to eat ramen. And Boruto's like, you probably have done something a bit fancier, and she was like, no, she said I would love to go eat ramen, and then it gets to that, and it's like, I guess she really did like ramen. It wasn't just like, oh, I really like Naruto, so let's go where he wants to go. She freaking loves ramen, so they both have that in common now, which I just thought was kind of interesting. She was like the gluttony queen. So that was kind of cool. It's just simple little stuff in this episode, and like I said, the second half was brand new, even though it was still 100% filler. Still some elements in there that I enjoyed. There's definitely some good comedy in there for sure. Just little things, little elements leading into, when we get back to Boruto as like the main focus, because we're going to be leaving that for quite some time. But it was decent, and it actually kind of brings up why they may or may not have done this episode like this, because the past couple episodes I'm like, alright, well, they got the new ending and stuff. Sada's story is coming up, so she can finally get some real focus. They're going into like all of her manga chapters and stuff, which was like the prologue before the Boruto movie even came out. And it was like, alright, well, I've been waiting for that. I still kind of wish it started already, but it was like, alright, we're waiting and we're waiting. I keep thinking something's going to lead into her story. And then this episode comes along and it's like, you know what? It makes sense to have this filler episode focus on the Uzumaki clan, because it's about to focus on the Uchiha clan for who knows how long. It was a fairly decent amount of stuff in those chapters. Like that, I guess technically that only would have been like a full volume, so they could. Well, no, I don't know. It lasted for a while from what I remember, so that may be around like 5 or 6 episodes. It'll all be like Sada's story. So I am curious how long they're gonna make that and how much how it really plays out. But I remember it being fairly decent when I read through it. I was like, this is actually a fairly decent amount of story, and them traveling from place to place and stuff like that. So it does kind of make sense a little bit. It's still, like I said, ultimately it comes down to it is like, I'm not going to watch this episode like ever again because it was a filler episode, but it kind of makes sense to have it since we're going into Sada's story and focusing on her and finding out about Sasuke and being with her parents and stuff. Have a final moment for next like 2 months or so. This like final moment is just focusing on the Uzumaki family, and it's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Still a filler, but ultimately it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it still had elements in there that I enjoyed a lot. And seeing the manga of Naruto's inauguration day done in anime form, hyping up like that creepy aspect of Himawari going like full Byakugan, actually pretty awesome. So even though it was stuff that I'd seen, seeing it in animation, I was like, I'm surprised how much of a difference it made. Them like amping up the horror aspect. Like none of that was really in it. Like Boruto was freaking out, and it's panel, so it's like, oh, he's freaking out. Naruto runs, and it's like, oh, she has the Byakugan, and then she hits him, and then it's like he's knocked out, and then they cut to the inauguration, and then that's pretty much it. It doesn't go through like that slow motion element of it where he's terrified looking at her, and she's looking at him with the eyes opening up slowly, and searching for him through the house while Naruto's passed out on the first floor, and he's trying to hide from her as she walks slowly through the house. So they were definitely able to add a lot of emotional elements that weren't there. It was kind of just like, okay, that was pretty funny. That's pretty crazy that she awakened the Byakugan so young, and little stuff like that, which was cool. But in this, it really amped it up when you get to like see it done fully animated. So I really appreciated that. And like I said, with it being the last episode for, I would say at least a month, at least a month, that's going to really focus on, obviously the main character, Boruto. It does kind of make sense to focus on the family as a whole since we're going into Sada's story, which is really funny that it's Sada's story because they kind of tease it a little bit in the promo, but it does start off kind of as Chocho's story, which is pretty funny, but really it's, it ultimately becomes Sada's. But I'm definitely looking forward to next week now that we're officially getting into Sada's story arc from the manga, because it was really freaking awesome. We're going to see some really cool stuff. We're going to see what I would consider some fairly unique team-ups, just because it's like, it's going to be Sada and Chocho, and then Naruto's really a big part of it as far as like going with the girls and kind of advancing the story alongside them. So it's appearing that we probably won't see like ever again once we get to like, the tuning exams and all that stuff and moving to the 3-man squads. It's just something we pretty much won't ever see again. So it's a cool, unique moment for the series, but I'm definitely looking forward to it next week. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And of course, with this being like half that one-shot manga and the other half being like original, just Uzumaki family stuff. I would love to know what you guys thought about it as far as the family dynamics and them having new content and really them diving into, or at least touching on, I can't say they dived into it, but they definitely touched on it, Boruto's feelings towards his father. I think that was definitely a great part of the episode because that's something that unfortunately is going to take a back burner until we get back to the Boruto movie episodes, and then it'll officially be like, here's exactly why I don't like my dad, and then here's how it's solved, because that's pretty much like the whole point of the movie, which is great. I love that in the film, so I'll be excited to see it's just like finally, said and done with in the anime once we actually get to it. But it's really well done in the film, and I've mentioned this before. That's one of the things I hate about the anime, where it's like they constantly get close to that, and then it's just like pulled right back. And I think this episode actually balanced it out pretty well, where it just worked, and then it was still there a little bit with Boruto, like, oh, I'm acting as if I want to spend more time with my dad. He kind of pushes it off, but I felt like it was, personally at least, I felt like it was handled much better than other episodes where it's like a simple solution should have come next, and then it's like, poof, father and son are reconnected, but they couldn't do that because they have to save that for the movie. So I feel like in this episode, it was balanced out pretty well, but I would love to know how you guys felt about them touching on Boruto and Naruto's relationship, as well as the family relationship in general. And of course, we'd love to know what you guys are looking forward to seeing. If you haven't read the manga, of course, what you guys are kind of hoping to see for Sato's story arc coming up. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.